All right, so we were just talking about the different observation forms that you can use. Again, please don't get overwhelmed by the forms. Don't let your new hire get overwhelmed by the forms. That is not the purpose. I was just trying to offer you a variety of forms and modes to collect data, collect information for your new hire so that it can be used productively by you and them so that they can reflect on their practice and figure out what are their strengths and what are their areas of targeted growth, what sort of things they need to focus on. So of course, the benefits of providing your new hire with feedback is that it kind of honors their competence. It reinforces the desired behaviors that they have. We want to make sure that we fill gaps in knowledge, whether it's their knowledge, that we are noting gaps in student comprehension. We want to help to align expectations and priorities. We want to help the new teacher know where they need to take corrective action. We want to make sure that we're open to the new teacher's point of view. We want to make sure that when we're providing feedback that we are not trying to produce a mini-me. You may think that you're the greatest math teacher in the world and you're clearly a great one, or else that's why you wouldn't be a mentor. But we want the new teacher to become their best that they can be. And that doesn't mean that they're going to have the same classroom management plan as you. That doesn't mean they're going to have the same instructional strategies that you use. But our goal is to focus on building the capacity and the confidence of the new teacher. We want to build on their strengths, reinforce what is desired, and then of course hopefully start to tackle and improve upon their kind of noted areas of weakness. So how do we do it? Just make sure that you're aware of your motive. We want to always be helpful. We want to focus on behaviors, not the person. Make sure you're speaking for yourself only, not for your department or not for parents or for administrators. So make sure you use I saw, and not you did, blah, 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 because that sounds very accusatory and that'll just evoke your new hire. They'll just become defensive. Make sure that your feedback is based on concrete data, things that you observed, things that you know for certain, not things that are based on hearsay or things that students have told you or parents have told you, anything like that. Make sure you focus on descriptions, as we've talked about before. We want the feedback to be lean and precise. What that means is you can't give them feedback on 25 different things. They can't focus on all of those areas. And so you want to kind of prune your feedback to figure out what is the priorities, what's going to give them the biggest bang for their buck, that sort of thing. Check for understanding. Make sure that the new hire knows what the feedback means when they look at the scripting that you did, if that's how you chose to collect data. Make sure that you all talk about what are our takeaways, what are our aha moments from looking at this feedback. And then make sure that you end by using that collaborative assessment log where you're kind of recording your meeting notes and what is the future actions, what are the next steps, what are you as the mentor responsible for doing now that we've observed this lesson, what are your to-dos and what is the new hire's to-dos, what are you both responsible for in order to promote your new teacher's professional growth, and therefore ultimately our whole goal in all of this is to positively impact student achievement. So what sort of language should you use? How do you think the lesson went and why? So what I hear you saying is, what do you think would happen if? How did you decide to do? Blah, blah, blah. Several teachers I know have tried a couple of different things, so that way it's not always, you being this expert teacher who is suggesting things. And again, try to avoid why questions, because whenever you use why, that usually puts people on the defensive. And so on page 13 in your mentoring handbook is the post-observation conference, and that's where you'll really, the collaborative assessment log, that's where you'll record your thoughts about what's working, what's not working, what are the next steps. And you will be expected to submit a copy of one of your collaborative assessment logs. It is certainly not, I'm not going to be looking at it to see what the areas of weakness are, what the areas of strength are, what you all are specifically talking about. It's just an accountability mechanism to make sure that we are using that tool, that we are meeting with our mentee often so that they know what's working, so that they're getting some feedback rather than just the feedback that they're getting from their administrator or just from me. I go in and observe every single new hire, but that's one time because there's over 80 new hires in total for Bedford County, and so you're a more consistent voice. I can't check in with them weekly, unfortunately, but you can, and so we want to make sure that you are that consistent voice for them. So that's why we're asking you to submit a CAL, not to kind of monitor what you're talking about, but just to make sure that you're talking. Again, we just want to remind you where their headspace is right now. We're in the disillusionment phase. I'm frustrated because students aren't participating. I keep thinking we should have this really rich, organic discussion, and we're not. I don't know how to embed remediation into my teaching. I don't know how to deal with parent concerns. Classroom management is killing me. I've got, one or two kids who are disrespectful all the time. I don't know how to plan lessons effectively that incorporates a variety of instructional strategies. I don't know how to satisfy all of the IEPs that my students have, and I don't know how to use my collaborative teacher. Or if I'm a SPED teacher, I don't know how to, push into a general education teachers effectively, into their classroom effectively. So these are all things that are stewing in your new teacher's head. And so again, look at this list and maybe kind of pick a different one to tackle each time you meet with your new hire, because sometimes they're just going to say, oh, everything's great, everything's going fine. So maybe this week when you meet, bring up parent relations. So, talk to me about parent relations. What's that look like? What does your parent communication look like? What feedback from parents have you gotten? And then next week, talk about student participation in class. So kind of maybe work your way through this list, because what the research shows is these are the overarching things that new hires are frustrated with. And also that next to last one, analysis of student work and grading. Make sure that you have a conversation. That has got to be a conversation that you have with your new hire this month. Talk to them about how are they grading student work and what are they gleaning from it. Are they grading student work just to put a grade in the grade book? Or are they looking at the student work and analyzing it and looking at the data to figure out what do they need to teach? Maybe it's certain concepts that they need to reteach whole group, or is there certain concepts that they need to pull a couple of kids and reteach? That sort of thing. But make sure that they are looking at their data, that they have a process for that. And we're not going to go through a specific process because every school, and whether you're elementary or secondary, that's going to look different. But talk to them about your process. What do you do with student work? How do you use it to inform future instruction? How do you use it to figure out what remediation should look like? That sort of thing. So just make sure that analysis of student work is a discussion point this month. We don't want to put that off any longer. Make sure that during the month of October that you have a discussion about student work and what's that going to look like in your classroom. In your new hires classroom. And then before we kind of circle back and talk about our face-to-face meeting in November, again, let's look at our daily objective. So hopefully you have looked at the variety of observation tools. You've thought about the pre-observation questions that you can ask before you meet with them. You figured out which tools are going to be helpful to you and your new hire, which ones aren't, so that you feel equipped to provide your new hire with non-evaluative, non-judgmental data that they can use when you're in their classroom to inform their future instruction, to make instructional decisions. And that you are able to offer them 3 pieces of meaningful data. Again, it may be more than that, but again, we talked about, remember, keeping it lean and precise. We don't want to overwhelm them with so much data from a classroom observation. Keep it tied to what their goals are. Think about that annual goal. Think about how they can analyze student work to help them reach that goal. And that's what your role is during this part of the mentoring cycle, is to collect observation data and to help move them forward in their practice. And you are expected to observe your new hire once during first semester, once during second semester at a bare minimum, and then they are also expected to come observe you at least once a semester. Obviously, if you can manage that more than one time, that would be great, but that is one of the expectations of the mentoring cycle, is that you will observe them at least once a semester, and they will observe you once a semester. And then during second semester, we also ask them to video a lesson and reflect on it, and then have a post-observation conference with you, kind of based on what they see. So our final meeting, obviously mentoring is very kind of front loaded. It's very heavy in the beginning of the year because there's so much that we have to share with our new hires at the beginning. So our final meeting is going to be face-to-face. Hopefully you got the invitation in the courier and you have shared that with your new hire so that they can add it to their calendar. Just in case they have a question, they will get recertification points based on their attendance at the meeting. It'll be added to their points from attending their new hire meetings. And you, of course, will get credit for attending as well. And so we are meeting face-to-face Tuesday, November 13th at 3:45 in the SBO conference room. Make sure that you invite your mentee. I will not be sending them a reminder. I will not be sending them an invitation because I really wanted it to come from you so that you can have this opportunity to spend this time with them socially. Again, we will be having some discussions and some time to reflect, but it will be nothing formal. It will be very informal. And then also, just as a quick reminder, and I will send you an email reminder as we get closer to it, but your first semester log is due November 16th. You will need to send a signed copy to me, either through fax, or you can scan and email it to me, or I will put an assignment in the classroom. And of course, if you would rather scan it and attach it to that, you certainly may. But that is due by November 16th. So if you have any questions or concerns about meeting your mentees' needs, please let me know. And thank you again for all that you have done and all that you are doing to support your new hire. And I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, November 13th at the School Board Office Conference Room. Thanks so much.